Hello and welcome to episode 43 of Let's Talk Immigration. If you are joining us now, welcome. If you're joining us and watching the recorded show, that's great too. Happy to have you here either way, okay? So I've got two topics I wanted to cover, and then after that, I'm going to go to question and answers. If you have a question, the best place to ask is on Facebook or YouTube, although there's a place on Telegram you could also ask the question, and then my team forwards it to me. So I am open to questions. First thing I want to talk about, DV 2023 selectees who have not been scheduled for an interview, the odds are not great for you right now, okay? This is from a website that tracks the issuances of DVs, and as of last Friday, 50,842 visas have been issued. That doesn't count how many green cards were used by USCIS, and there's only 55,000. So this web page that I'm showing you will be updated again on Friday, and we'll know how much closer we are to 55,000 if we haven't exceeded it already. Once it's met or exceeded, the DV program for 2023, fiscal year 2023 is over, okay? DV issuances are expected to stop by September 9th this year instead of September 30th because they think that they'll be exhausted by September 9th. But it could be sooner or it could be later. But that's just what some people in the influencers are predicting. So I wanted to share that information with you. Of course, we are not accepting DV 2023 selectees as clients. We're taking care of the ones we have. I have a couple, I have 3 pending motions for temporary restraining order and a few lawsuits where we are trying to take care of our DV 2023 clients, but we're not accepting new DV 2023 clients. If you had all year to hire us, okay? So it's too late now. So if you want to hire an attorney, go find somebody else. Morrison Arena, Ready to Law. I'm sorry, it's another law firm. Not accepting DV 2023 clients. Okay. So next thing I wanted to talk about is an order today we got in the Sunny case. Let me share my screen here. So there's 3 lawsuits. Sunny, Wilson, and Santos, okay, that we filed in the Eastern District of New York. See if this works. Sunny, Wilson, Santos in the Eastern District of New York, challenging the Biden administration's and Secretary Blinken's prioritization of non-immigrant visas over immigrant visas, which is causing most of the problems we see with family-based immigration visas right now. And to some extent, problems we see with employment-based too. For example, the visa bulletin not moving. This is an indirect cause of that, okay? This NIV prioritization scheme. These 3 lawsuits, we challenged it in. It's been challenged in 2 other lawsuits since then. Naveed and another lawsuit that I filed with my new company. But these 3 lawsuits, Wilson, Santos, and Sunny, today, Judge Kogan issued an order August 30th, denying the motion to amend and also dismissing the lawsuits. One thing that he did say toward the end is, I thought this was interesting. Plaintiffs have the better textual argument. But mandamus is a drastic and extraordinary remedy reserved for extraordinary cases. And he said the court declines to go down that path because the defendants have a substantial backlog, and 2/3 of the plaintiffs have been scheduled for interview or had their application processed. And then 3 is the relief sought would displace other applicants who are also documentarily qualified and waiting for interviews. What's interesting about the third thing is these are all family preference category plaintiffs. So the people that it would displace are the people that displace them. You know, it's like somebody cut in line, and we went to tell the police, and the police said, "No, we can't put you back where you were because the person that cut in line, that would put them back one." You know, so anyway, those 3 things is what we're up against, or what we are up against if we try to challenge the NIV prioritization scheme again before this court. But it's nice that he did concede that we have a better textual argument that the Biden administration should be issuing 200, or striving to at least issuing 226,000 family preference category visas a year, instead of actually planning for those visas to not be issued so that they can roll over to employment, which is what I believe happened in the last several years, including last year. I think it was 50,000 visas that went unused that rolled over to employment-based. So what's next is the prioritization scheme is still being challenged in two lawsuits, Naveed versus Blinken in the district court for the District of Columbia, and Iqbal versus Blinken in the Eastern District of California. I may challenge it again, but I haven't decided where. Okay. Okay, so those are the things I wanted to talk about that were in the news. Okay. Now I'm going to just jump to your question and answers, and we'll let that guide the rest of the show. Here we got Vali Bagras. I don't know. Hi, DV 2020. Hi. We don't have an update for Gomez class members. Okay. Still waiting on the outcome of the appeal. Barry says, "I look great today." Well, thank you, Barry. That's a nice thing to say. I need more clients to say things like that. Marco says, "Any news about Good Luck DV 2021? Okay, so we're waiting on the outcome of the appeal from the 3-judge panel of the Circuit Court for the District Court of Columbia. I do not have any news on that. Still waiting on the outcome. It's not shame to ask lower when is the judgment. No, it's okay to ask me, lower, I think you mean lawyer, when the judgment is. That's fine. You can ask me, but I don't know, okay? And asking me over and over, which is what's happening right now. I get about 100 inquiries a day with that question. And I know some of you who are asking, I've told you before, there's no way to know when federal judges are going to issue their opinions or orders. They control their docket and their deadlines. Okay. Babatoon says, "I hope you still talk about F4 immigrants, USA pending interviews in Africa, especially Nigeria." Well, I know it didn't sound like it, but that's what I was talking about before with the Sonny Santos and Wilson order. What those 3 lawsuits were filed by like over 250 families that were in family preference categories, F2A, but also Santos was a lot of F3 and F4 and F1s, who those categories under the Biden administration have been deprioritized, okay? And so if you're stuck in an unreasonable delay, talk to me because I want to do a lawsuit for you. Now, lawsuits are not cheap. When we do group lawsuits, they're more affordable, but they're less effective at getting individual outcomes. There are exceptions. The Young versus Trump lawsuit that we did in 2020 was very successful, for example. However, what I would recommend, talk to me or another immigration attorney who does mandamus lawsuits, and we'll see what we could do. Of course, if you're F4, F3, F2, F1, F2A, your case has to be current in the visa bulletin. If your case is not current in the visa bulletin, a mandamus lawsuit can't help. There's nothing we can do about that. Okay, What about visas for 2021? Okay, visas for 2021. If you're a 2021 selectee, your journey is probably over. The only situation where your journey would not be over is if you were a plaintiff in the Good Luck versus Biden lawsuit that Morrison Arena represented over 20,000 families, or you were benefiting from Morrison Arena's lawsuit Ray versus Biden because you were awaiting an interview at, I think, 25 specific embassies, something like that, like in the Schengen area, South Africa or China or Brazil. If you were waiting an interview at one of those embassies, or you were a Good Luck plaintiff, then your journey may continue, but you have to wait for the outcome of the appeal. Otherwise, your DV 2021 journey is over. The journeys for the majority of DV 2021 selectees who have not been issued visas are over. The only two exceptions are the ones I just said. Nona is a DV 2023 winner. Hi, Nona. I hope that you are scheduled for interview or issued a visa, or both. I hope both before September 9th, because that's when it's projected that they will run out of DV 2023 visas. Okay. Still waiting for interview. Chose Tbilisi. Case number 21,000. Is there any chance to have an interview? It's very unlikely you will get an interview at this point. We know one embassy, Algiers, is actually canceling interviews, but that's a different situation because they've exceeded the cap for Algerians, meaning Algerians already have 7% of the 55,000, and that's all they can have. It's like almost 4,000. No country can have more than 4,000, more than 7% of the visas total. So I'm sorry, I went on a tangent. At this point, it's going to take a miracle, but still, check your email. You never know. Miracles sometimes happen. Emily says, can the government argue against our priorities challenge, saying the court can't say which case to prioritize, similar to arguments, again, who deport in the recent case? The government can argue anything they want, and they will argue that, yes. I don't know which lawsuit you're talking about. I think maybe you're talking about single mandamus lawsuits, but yes, the government makes several arguments, usually dozens of arguments, whenever they want to oppose a lawsuit. More than half of them are usually stupid and have never been upheld by a court, but they're ambitious. They aspire to get to throttle immigration as much as they can, I guess. Expand the power and authority of the Secretary of State. I think they get like a free toaster if they do something like that, or some kind of awards program. I don't know. I'm joking. That's not real. So yes, the government can make arguments like that in any lawsuit that they choose to try to dismiss. Okay. For DV 2021 lawsuit, at the moment, we are waiting for the opinion of the judges of the Court of Appeals, Circuit Court of Appeals. Unfortunately, we do not know when the judges will announce their opinion. We will announce plaintiffs by email when we receive updates. That's true. Okay. Judge Mehta decided to give us more than 9,000 visas, so why they have never been issued yet? Well, I assume that you're a DV 2020 selectee and Gomez class member, and the answer to your question, it's a good question, is because the Biden administration appealed Judge Mehta's order. In other words, that means Secretary Blinken with the State Department, who works for Joe Biden, the president, said, no, that order was wrong, and we should not have to do that. And since they filed an appeal, now that there's a stay of the implementation of that order, Judge Mehta issued another order that there was a stay that said, okay, government, you don't have to issue those 9,095 visas until the stay is lifted, and the stay is not going to be lifted until the outcome of the appeal. So that's why. It's because of the appeal, the Biden administration's appeal. The reason diversity visa selectees who had paths in 20 and 2021 preserved by judges, the reason that those journeys are on hold is because of the administration of President Joseph R. Biden. Okay. Do Iranians who win the lottery need a sponsor? I think you're thinking of back in the day when there were waivers of the travel ban. The travel ban is not in effect right now. So generally, no. There's this other thing called a sponsor to like alleviate public charge. It's not the affidavit of the sport, it's just an I-134. Some embassies, like Abu Dhabi, say that that's over with. They don't do it anymore. And then some embassies in Africa say we're still doing it. So I don't know how to answer that question because I think there's some ambiguity. It's never a bad idea. What can go wrong? Just fill out that I-130, have your sponsor complete an I-134 and have it with you at the interview. No reason to submit it before. Just have it with you in case they ask for it. I don't think they ask Iranians for sponsors generally. Deepak says, what is the reason the Biden administration not withdrawing the 2020-21 appeal? Probably, Deepak, the reason is the same reason that they filed the appeal. And the reason they filed the appeal, although it feels like they want to throttle immigration from the global south, prevent and throttle, the real reason is actually dumb. It's because they want to preserve the authority of the Secretary of State and a future Secretary of State, who will probably be a monster, to do just that, to, on his whim, interpret a presidential 212F bar to entry as a bar to visa issuances. They want to preserve that authority that they made up, that Congress didn't give them. They want to preserve that authority. Again, they don't have that authority. They just made it up during the Trump administration, but they want to keep it. It's like a new toy. And even though it's not theirs, they stole it. They don't want to give it up, you know? Very American thing, you know? America stole all that land from the Native Americans, and now they're admitting that, like, it was stolen, but you don't see them giving it back, do you? So I'm patriotic in what I'm hearing today, but in my mind, I'm not 100% there. USA has some challenges too. Okay, do you hope for 2021 winners to get a visa by the end of winter? Well, Semaine, 2020-21 winners, 2020-21 winners, sounds weird. Most of them are not my clients, so I'm not concerned about them. I hope for my good luck clients and my Ray clients to get visas as soon as possible. And that's only going to happen, though, after the outcome of the appeal. Okay, I can't predict when that's going to be. I hope that it's soon. Do you see a lawsuit being filed against the Department of State to use the filing chart of CISPA, given that USCIS is doing so, or a lawsuit against USCIS for using it? Hi, Emily. I have not heard of any organization or attorneys talking about filing a lawsuit against USCIS for using Chart B instead of Chart A. I think it's one of those things where the people that oppose immigration don't even understand CISPA, so they wouldn't know how to sue. As an attorney that's kind of exploring the option of filing a lawsuit against the State Department for not adopting the February guidance that USCIS adopted and looking to Chart B for CISPA, I can tell you that CISPA is extremely complicated, and the kids that went to work for the conservative anti-immigrant think tanks, they're not smart enough to figure that out. So they can't bring a legal challenge because it just looked like mumble gumbo. It wouldn't make any sense, right? So I would not expect that to be challenged. Although there is a challenge there. I shouldn't say that, but I'm not going to say anymore. Okay. Nona says, we have winners who were skipped. Case numbers 10,000, 3,000. What is a reason why they called higher case numbers when we, and also if there are any chances to schedule interviews, who's are skipped? Nona, I'm not telling from this question, but looking back at your previous question, you're a DV 2023 winner who chose Tbilisi as your interview location. DV selectees are not interviewed in case number rank order. I'll say that again. DV 2024 selectees, listen to this because I don't want to repeat it over and over and over. Cases are not scheduled in case number order. So they couldn't have been skipped because of the case number. Okay? They're scheduled in what's called AV status date order, which involves when KCC is done reviewing the DS-260, which no one knows. Okay, you know when you submitted the DS-260, but you don't know when KCC was done reviewing the DS-260. So DVs are scheduled in that rank order that you don't have access to, so you can't tell if they've been skipped. Second, some cases are at one embassy and some cases are at another embassy. And so how could you tell if they're being skipped when they're at two different embassies? It just doesn't work. So I realize that it's frustrating to see that, but every year we see, if you go to SEAC and enter case number 2020-22 AF1, and I don't think it's been issued. I don't think it was. It's very common to see the very low case number is not issued because they're not issued in case number order, okay? I skipped a question, but I'll go back to it. I think there's some procedure you guys will follow after years passed after the appeals, right? If yes, what will happen? Adonai? No, there is not a procedure that we will follow after a year has passed. That is not a legally significant date in an appeal. Emily says, I was making reference to this case, the win against Republican officials in two states who challenged the president's effort to prioritize some authorized immigrants for arrest and detention. That case is not analogous to any kind of work that I'm doing. And I'm not really familiar with it because it's not in the space that I work. I work mostly consular processing, people trying to get their foreign national family members or diversity visa selectees into the U.S. That's kind of my focus. The stuff at the border and people trying to evade or deal with the removal proceedings within the U.S., that's not my bag. That's not my Eduardo says, good evening, Mr. Curtis. I wanted to know about calls, how to store calls, DV 2020. How to store calls, DV 2020. I'm not sure what you mean. If you are a Gomez class member and you're wanting to know when we will know something, it's when the Circuit Court of Appeals issues their opinion, and we don't know when that will be. Okay. Somebody says, do you think that the quota of the countries that receive less visas in legal time is more than the saved visas? I don't know what visa category you're talking about or fiscal year either. I need context for these questions. You were talking about 2021 before. I don't know if the quota is going to mean that much when it comes to reserved visas. I could be wrong. If it does come into play, it would come into play with Nepal, I believe, who probably got the closest percentage to 7% of the DV 2021 visas that were issued, if I remember correctly. But I don't think it'll come into play, that 7% thing. Okay, thank you so much for your efforts. Wish you all the best here. Thank you very much. Okay, it's been a nice 30 minutes. I don't see any other questions. I'm going to wrap up. See you next Wednesday for episode 44 of Let's Talk Immigration. Have a good week. If you're in a place that's getting hit by a hurricane or on fire or being flooded or having extreme heat warming events. Stay cool, stay safe. Okay. I know a lot of people are suffering right now. Be safe.